Hello friends and welcome back to this video. Today in this video I'm going to talk about a very interesting search option which is called Meilisearch. Now this search option is very similar to something like Algolia if you have used it. The concept is that you index your data onto this search index, and once you have done that, it is very easy for you to search that data. But then that is something which we can do even in MySQL, right? What is the added advantage of using this? Well, the thing is, this search option is blazing fast. Yes, it is very fast in indexing and searching from a huge list of data when you have a lot of text, where MySQL may become a little slow. And on top of it, it also handles a lot of interesting things like spelling mistakes and punctuations and whatnot. To give you an example, if you see, this is how the demo works. Okay, it said bit flags, but then if you see, it had a space, but the other ones are coming as well. So lazy static is very similar to lazy space static, which may not happen in case of a MySQL database. This is something which typically a search engine specifically designed will give you as a basic functionality, right? Plus it has other things like it can search in other languages, and it has typo tolerance and stuff like that. But in this video, I'm going to show you how we can install it, and maybe we will implement it with our Nestjs application so that we can understand how it works inside a Node application. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So to get started, we will go into the Get Started section, and then obviously the first thing that we will have to do is set up Meilisearch so that we can connect our Node application to this search index. How do we do that? Well, there are multiple options. You have Homebrew if you want to directly install it on your machine. Those who are using Mac, you have installation for Windows as well. You have apt and source so that you can do it on Linux as well. But what I am going to use is the Docker installation. This is very straightforward, and this is what I prefer because in this way I don't need to play around with my system. Now, obviously, before the video, I have done this because this image can be a little heavy. I'll show you. I already have the 138 MB get Meilisearch Docker image, which means now I can run this command inside my terminal, and let's wait and see what happens. All right, that was quick. Obviously, after the 130 MB or something of an image download, but as you can see, we get some information about Meilisearch. It says data path is something which is ./data.ms, which is fine. Server is listening on port on URL 000:7700, which means it can work through localhost and it can work through IP as well, which obviously means that I can do something like go to localhost 7700 and we see this dashboard. Okay. Now, obviously, as you can see, I can search something over here and I can even select the index, but unfortunately we haven't created one, which is not a big deal because now once we have this ready, why don't we go into this Meilisearch JS applications GitHub repository and look at this documentation, because I think this is one of the most easiest way to get started. The documentation and the examples are very straightforward. Okay, so import syntax. Usage in an ES module environment. Obviously, yes, we will need the Meilisearch. So why don't we go inside our VS Code and do npm install Meilisearch. Now, while this is happening, let's look at the code itself. It says once we import it, we need to create a client. Okay, that's interesting. But then this is not the ideal way we would structure our code, right? Especially if we are inside our Nestjs application. So why don't we do one more thing? We will run a command nest gmo. I think that's the command for module. And then I'll do modules/search. If my command is correct, I should ideally create a folder inside the modules folder. Yes, that's correct. And then I have search.module.ts. So far so good. I think this is fine. And I need to see inside my app.module. Yes, this entry is made. So I think this is good. What we wanted to achieve is here. Now, the first thing that we will do is create search.service.ts. Okay, because in this search service, ideally we would want to create a client. So why don't we first start our service class? And obviously, because this is a service class inside Nestjs, I need to make it injectable. And with that done, why don't we also add it as a list of providers? Oops, not here, but rather here. Because we will use this search service. We can basically use this on other services as well. So it makes sense to make it available through the providers. And even the module will need it when we inject it through inside the controller. So with that done, why don't we first have one variable, a private variable called client, and this is going to be of type Meilisearch. This is something which I know because I was trying out the thing, the code before I started the tutorial, and I typically like hinting the variables so that TypeScript understands that the type of variable we are declaring, and it will give us a lot of hints on that. Okay, so the constructor is here. This dot client equals new Meilisearch, like so, and then I have host, which will be obviously this URL, right? So this is done. We have one clear separation over here, and then there is one thing which is creating the index. Okay, now let's quickly go into the index. I'll try to show you something. This is an important concept to understand. Right, so it basically will give you a definition of what an index is and what its responsibility is. But then it says an index is created the first time documents are added to it or manually using the create index endpoint, which basically means is if we are creating documents, the index, if it doesn't exist, will get created. Okay, which is a good thing, because now that obviously means that I can do something like this. So I'll have a private function which will do something like this, dot underscore client index, and let's just say we will keep the document name as rather the index name as movies, very similar to what even the documentation says. Okay, because I wanted this dummy data, but yeah, that's the thing. But then we need to understand what is getting returned. Let's see. So this function returns an index. So why don't we do that? Let's just say it is of type index, just to keep things a little more TypeScript friendly. And then we'll have add documents. Okay, and we will get the index first, and then on the index we will do await index dot add documents, something like this. Okay, so this is an async function, hence the await, and we already have an async in our function, which means the compiler would know. By the way, is my module coming up? Oh, I won't know that because I haven't created any URL. So let's hold on to it. we have search. Let's create a controller, search.controller.ts. The controller should ideally go inside a folder, so controllers, and maybe I'll just move it here. Okay, and the controller obviously is a class called search controller. Let's add the decorator search and API tags. This is for our Swagger to work, something like this. Okay, and then the first thing that we will have to do is do some dependency injection, right? So private, where is my search service, like this. Okay, and then we'll have one URL which is a get URL. We will call it get search. Typically this would go inside maybe an app start or something like that, but I want to show you how things work, so we will create that inside a function. So a get URL which is of route slash. In this, what we will do is constant, I will just copy a few things, go over here. So we have documents, right? Why don't we take this entire array, okay, and we'll do constant response equals this dot search service dot add documents, and in there I'll pass the array. Okay, this is an await, and then why don't we console the output of that response? What do we get over here? Okay, it's a promise, so maybe we will do something like promise, but then is there a void? Yes, there is, because we are not returning anything, so that's fine. Okay, and now it's time to go to our browser, go to Swagger, and see if we get our search, and we don't. And the reason I think is I'll have to define my controllers like so. Module has restarted, and if I'm lucky I should now see search. Yes, I do, and hence let me try it out then. Okay, yes, I can see it over here, which means now let me see if I can get something over here, and we do. Can you see we have 6 records? Some of them are just titles and then the category of that movie. Why don't we add a few more of our choice as well? So let's go inside our controller. I want to show you how the index can basically update the new records and keep things, everything which is already there, same. Okay, so let's just say Kung Fu Panda cartoon 2 and 8. And one more thing, you need to understand that if I, for example, make a change over here, which is life of pi, and I'm going to change that pi to something else to completely change the meaning. Okay, so I'll do pi like this. Let's come over here, refresh. Oh, my bad. This was done. Can you see there are 8 records, which is fine, and the update is done, and we have 2 Kung Fu Panda as well, cartoon. Now how do we search this? Now obviously in this UI we can, so Wonder Woman will give us that, and woman does give me woman. Okay, so the singular and plural thing is working, and even wonder, which is a spelling mistake, gives me this, which in itself is a huge thing. If you see, you are making the user experience so good, and you are allowing them to even make typing mistakes and still get some results which are relevant. It's not something which is random. What else do you want, right? So now let's try and create an API where we can do an actual search, not this nice looking UI obviously, but something of our own. Let's get started. So first thing first, public async search movie. This is the function. It is going to be a post URL, so no questions there. We need a search function, so go inside the service, a search function which takes a text string and search parameters, because if I try to show you, right, this search parameter takes a lot more parameters apart from what we want to search. So if I quickly, when we implement the function, right, you will see just, okay, hold on. So we have, let's just say, we'll get the index first. So index equals this dot get movie index maybe, and then index dot search. We'll take the text which is coming from the function, and now click on search and let's see what do we have. So the first parameter is obviously the query, which is string or null, which is fine, and then options, which is of type search parameters. And search parameters has something like this. We have filter, we have sort, attributes to retrieve, optional parameters, right? And I'm going to use this. I'll tell you an interesting thing with that. So maybe what I will do is search params, which is optional, search params. Okay. And then I can obviously pass this along, so no problem there. And return, oopsie, return await like this. Now it's time to run that thing inside our controller. So how do we do that? First of all, because it's a controller, we'll need the body. It's a post request, right? So we can say search and we create a DTO. Let's just say search movie DTO is the name of the class which we will create over here. Search will be inside the DTO slash search movie DTO.ts. Export class this. Okay, now let me quickly write down the code for our DTO. Alright, so I have a basic DTO in place which says that there is one property text which is required. I have the API property definitions so that the Swagger documentation understands what is happening. It shouldn't be empty. The length should be between 255 characters, and then I get it over here. Simple, right? So then, now that we have this, what I can do is this dot search service, call the search function, and then in that I'll do search.text. And over here, what I can do is, where is my search options? Let me see. Attributes to retrieve, right? In here, I can do something like, oh, this is the service. If I do it over here, then it will get hard coded. I should go inside the controller and then do something like this. Okay, what is happening? Let's try and get that. Come over here, hit refresh, try to run this, and what do you see? I see this title Wonder Woman, which is fine. However, on Panda 2 results are coming, which is also good, but then something happened because this thing is not working. Attributes to retrieve. I think that was what the documentation said, right? Okay, attributes to highlight. Why wasn't that inside the options? Let me quickly see. Search. The highlight is not here. Okay, this is something which I didn't get, but I'll try to figure it out. But at least I know that the highlight thing is available, because what now will happen is, try and see. This is the hits where we have the direct JSON, right? Now I'll hit again. And can you see there is one additional parameter which is formatted. Okay, let me also do one thing. Let's see, is it star which gives me all the fields? What if I want to do only title? Okay, application has started. Okay, formatted, and then the title. But obviously, can you see whatever is available, right? It is giving an additional EM inside it, which basically will allow you to highlight anything which matches. Very similar to, let's just say, if I do application, can you see this is highlighted, right? You will very easily see that over here and over here. Similarly, because I'm getting this HTML markup over here, it very easily allows me to do some kind of an highlighting by stylizing the EM tag, right? So yes, that's about it. That's how the search works. Obviously, this is just the backend implementation of Meilisearch with the Nestjs application, but in the subsequent video, we are going to also show how the UI can work for this. But yeah, for now, this is what we want. As you can see, it is very, I would say, forgiving in terms of what you are searching for, because if you are typing for man, you don't get anything, but a woman, the singular version, gives you Wonder Woman, and if you do the plural version, it does give you that. And let's just say, let's see what happens if you make a very silly mistake. Obviously, this word doesn't exist. Okay, I think it recognized because this word doesn't exist. But yeah. And what happens if I just search for 2? Okay, Wonder Woman came in because I think the ID was 2. And Kung Fu Panda came in as well. So yeah, that's about it, guys. That's how we can use Meilisearch. We installed the Meilisearch using Docker, and then inside our node-based application, or rather the Nest-based application, we also implemented it and saw how we can use a search API. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, do click on the thumbs up icon and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.